I'm the manicurist, and on the eve of New Year's, the hustle is just like that. I was already at my limit. My schedule is packed, and during this time it seems like everyone remembers they need to get their nails done. That's when a new client showed up, because of a friend who had been getting her nails done with me for a long time. This friend always comes here, and she's one of those clients who walks in laughing, sharing her life, asking about mine, and we exchange stories. When the door opened, I already knew it was her just by the voice. She opened the door and said, "Friend, I brought my sister-in-law, my husband's sister, today. She's going to spend New Year's Eve at my place and needs to get her nails done for the celebration. There was no way I couldn't bring her." Her sister-in-law walked in right behind her, and I noticed that she was a beautiful young woman. Her hair was styled, she wore simple clothes, but she looked put together. She had that vibe of someone who was always well-groomed but not over the top. She asked me if I had an opening at that moment, and I replied that I only had an opening for the next day. But if she wanted to wait, there were always people who cancelled. About an hour later, a client actually cancelled due to personal issues. So I called my friend's sister-in-law to start her appointment. I asked her what color of nail polish she wanted, and she chose a classic red. Without even thinking much, she thanked me and sat down. "Thank you for fitting me in, I really needed it." She said that with a quick smile. "Just imagine, the end of the year is like that," I replied, and I started filing her nails. While I was working, she stayed quiet, just listening to her sister-in-law who wouldn't stop talking, and I was already quite used to it, because this client of mine always made the conversations flow. But the other one was very different. She was more observant, like she was analyzing everything around her. When I finished, she complimented me, smiled, looking satisfied, and pulled out her credit card to pay me. When I read the name on her credit card, I froze. I couldn't even think straight. The first name was the same as my husband's, followed by an abbreviated letter R, and the last name was identical. I stood there holding the card. I kept holding the card as if it would give me some kind of answer. So I said, "Funny, your husband has the same name as mine." I said that trying to sound casual, but my mind was racing. She looked up, gave a light smile, and said, "Really? What a coincidence, right? They must be common names." She replied to that and, without paying much attention, took the card back and left. But I was deep in thought, and at that moment, millions of things were running through my mind. So I sat on the couch, staring at the card reader as if it would explain to me what had just happened. And I froze in such a way that I didn't even realize that the full name of the cardholder would be on the receipt from the card reader. Card, right? The cardholder, and later, when my husband got home, I casually threw out a question like, "Hey love, did you lend your credit card to someone today?" He didn't even take his eyes off his phone and replied, "No, I have it right here," and asked me why. I said it was nothing, but I found it strange that a client had paid with a credit card, and the name was identical. He found it funny, laughed, but kept fiddling with his phone. I found it funny too, but that just wouldn't leave my mind. The next day, my friend, who had an appointment scheduled, came by herself to touch up her nails. She sat down, and I, who was already feeling choked up about my daughter, as soon as she sat down, I said, "And how about your sister-in-law? She's been married for a long time." My friend smiled quite carefree and replied to me, "No way! They're still getting to know each other." But let me tell you, the guy is loaded. He pays for everything for her. Salon, gift, everything. She's extremely happy. Guys, at that moment, my heart sank. But I kept doing her nails, and I kept pretending that I wasn't bothered. I finished the service, and when she was about to pay me, I brought up the topic of the card that her sister-in-law had used to pay me. That the name was the same as my husband's, and I said, "Friend, can you believe that the credit card your sister-in-law used to pay for the service had my husband's name on it?" I said, trying to laugh, trying to seem relaxed, but my voice trembled at that moment. And it was at that moment that my friend said, "Could it be that your husband is the guy my sister-in-law is seeing?" My heart sank. It was a tight feeling at that moment. And right after that, she smiled and said,